On Boxing Day, 3 in the morning.
Pick up the mic.
I'm sorry. Boxing Day at 3 in the morning, my husband woke me with pain in his chest, radiating into his shoulders and his arms, and he said, I've taken 3 shots of nitro, and it hasn't helped. So I gave him 3 baby aspirin and took him to our emergency. I knew that if he had to go to Niagara Falls, it would take me half an hour, and I knew that the care they give you at our emergency is excellent. They looked after him, and it turned out that he did have a small heart attack. By 2 o'clock in the afternoon, he was transferred to Niagara Falls, where he stayed in emergency on one of their beds for 4 days, on his back, uncomfortable, then was moved to another section called step down for another 3 days, and it wasn't until January 4th that he got to Hamilton to have an angiogram and have a stent put in. During this time, I would say care was minimal. On the day he arrived at the hospital, at 7 o'clock, a heart doctor came in. This had happened at 3 in the morning. He had had no food other than in Fort Erie, where he had a very nice little breakfast. And he couldn't have any food until he was admitted. But at 7 o'clock, mealtime was over, so we had a sandwich. But I want to speak to one of the things that's happening in the hospitals as far as cleanliness is concerned. St. Catharines and Niagara Falls are known to have MRSA and C. difficile rampant. While he was in his cubicle in the emergency, I noticed that on the floor at the back of the cubicle beside him, there are all shelves where they keep the nightgowns and the linens and the towels and washcloths. Some washcloths had fallen on the floor. While I was visiting him, a girl came with a mop to mop his room. I said, I'll get out so you can get back in here. Oh no, it's all right. And she did the entranceway where I walked into his room. The next day I came back and those washcloths were still there on the floor. Nobody had picked them up. There was also a blood pressure cup had fallen, was lying on the floor. My husband had gotten up to go to the washroom. He'd taken out the oxygen bit. It was on the floor. Nobody saw this stuff, and nobody did anything. I finally picked up the washcloths and put them in their dirty linen thing. My point is, the heart attack was very minor, and he was fine. He did have to go to Hamilton. He did have a stent put in. But for all the care he had there, he could have had just as good care in Fort Erie. The nurses in Fort Erie, I had been in Fort Erie earlier in the year in the hospital for the requisite 2 days only, and the care was good. It was clean, and it was the right place to be. And I wouldn't have had to be driving back and forth during snowy days when it wasn't necessary. One of the nurses said her husband is in Fort Erie, or a relative is in Fort Erie, and she has to come from Niagara Falls to visit him here. They have it all backwards. It shouldn't be this way.